Oil rises to the highest level we've seen in 3 weeks following the death of Saudi Arabia's King Fahd. He ruled the world's largest oil exporter for 23 years. Bank earnings led European headlines. HSBC says results were boosted by an increase in lending. ABN AMRO says second-half profits will fall for the first time in 4 years. Procter & Gamble leading off this week's U.S. earnings. Later in the week, we will hear from the entertainment companies Time Warner and Viacom. And ahead of this week's jobs report, we'll see if growth in manufacturing continued for a second straight month. Morning once again from Bloomberg's global headquarters here in New York City. I'm Mike Schneider. This is Bloomberg Morning Markets. My partner Carol Masser is off on this Monday morning. U.S. equity futures currently pointing to a higher open. Stocks did fall on Friday to end the month, but the S&P 500 index staged its biggest rally in the second quarter earnings results that were coming in. For the month, the S&P 500 added 3.6%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average also increased 3.6%. The Nasdaq surged 6.2%. European stocks being led higher on this Monday by the oil producers. Asian stocks in their Monday session rising for a fourth consecutive day. More on the markets in detail in a couple of moments. First of all, though, our top story having to do with oil. Oil futures starting the week off higher. Prices jumping after the reported death of Saudi Arabia's King Fahd. Get a check right now on the price of oil. You can see we are up 56 cents right now to $61.13 a barrel. King Fahd had ruled Saudi Arabia for 23 years, but actually was not in charge of day-to-day operations since he suffered a stroke back in 1995. His half-brother, Crown Prince Abdullah, took over that role. He will now also take over the throne itself. There are a couple of other factors driving oil futures higher on this Monday morning. One is more trouble at a couple of refineries. BP shut down its Texas City, Texas plant for maintenance yesterday, and Valero Energy said that the breakdowns at 3 of its refineries slowed output last week as well. There's now also concern that Iran may be in the process of resuming some of its nuclear operations. That could lead to sanctions against OPEC's second biggest oil producer. So that's the oil setup for you on this Monday morning. We do have earnings out from a couple of European banks to tell you about. Profit at HSBC rose 9% over the first half of the year. Net income at Europe's biggest bank climbed to $7.6 billion. That did top analysts' expectations and was helped by an increase in lending. HSBC also said it would sell off some of its slower-growing businesses. ABN AMRO's second quarter profit rose 11%. That was helped by an increase in trading revenue and a drop in loan losses. Net income climbed to $1.2 billion for that Dutch bank. But ABN did say that profit will fall in the second half of this year. The bank expects to suffer more losses from bad loans and a drop in income from asset management. Well, second quarter earnings season winding down right now. Nearly 80% of the S&P 500 companies have reported their results, and about 70% of them have beaten analysts' expectations. Well, today's big report will come from Procter & Gamble. Matt Nesto up bright and early to tell us what to expect from the biggest U.S. maker of household products. What shall we expect?
Well, Mike, you ought to expect that the overseas sales are going to drive a quarter that should be up 10% on an operating basis. Analysts expecting the world's leading household products maker to post $1.5 billion profit in the second quarter. Works out to 55 cents a share on 8% revenue growth. That'll bring it up to about $14 billion. That would be the smallest percentage gain in growth, though, in more than a year. Chief Executive Alan Lafley is rolling out products such as Downy softener to countries like Mexico to tap markets that are growing twice as fast as the U.S. Investor Nick Collis of Rockdale Investment says the quarter is going to be helped by the company's ability to manage higher commodity prices.
This quarter is going to be a combination, I think, of some very modest top-line growth, but a lot of cost savings growth. It's been a very important part of P&G's earnings growth over the past 24, 36 months, particularly as energy prices have risen.
Well, another important part for the next 24 to 36 months is going to be that $57 billion acquisition of Gillette. It, too, expected to boost the overseas sales because Gillette did 65% of its sales outside the U.S. last year. P&G raising its long-term annual sales growth forecast when it announced the purchase of Gillette back in January. The sales are now expected to rise 5 to 7%. And analyst William Schmitz from Deutsche Bank says P&G is also also benefiting from its new products. The company launching 106 new items in April and May, including Tide to Go, which is a portable stain remover. This compares to just 59 new product launches for Colgate and 29 for Kimberly-Clark. P&G has top analyst profit estimates now for 8 quarters, but the stock's 5% rise during the past year trails the S&P 500. As we mentioned, P&G continues to face higher commodity costs, and Morgan Stanley says that oil and coffee are going to be the toughest ones. Analysts expect the company to discuss how it will address that and other issues on a conference call today, Mike. So we're waiting for P&G. It'll be out this morning. Back to you.
All right, Matt, thanks very much. P&G, by the way, just the beginning. Also going to hear from Marsha McLennan this week. The insurance broker probably will say that income fell. The Wall Street consensus is for profit of 41 cents a share. That would be down 32 cents from a year ago. Those numbers are due out tomorrow. Comcast also reports tomorrow. Profit of the cable company expected to rise. Net income will probably come in at 15 cents a share, up from 8 cents last year. Staying with the media, Time Warner reports on Wednesday. Profit little change, at least that's what they expect from last year. Rival Viacom out with the latest results a day later. Analysts also predicting little change for Viacom. Net income will likely come in at 46 cents a share. And Berkshire Hathaway will help to close out the week on Friday. Profit at Warren Buffett's company is expected to rise. I mentioned oil earlier in the program. Oil producers are giving stocks in Europe a boost on this Monday morning. Time for us to head off to London, where Matt Miller is standing by for us. Hey, Matt.
Hey there, Mike. Oil producers up and banks as well. Take a look at the markets and you'll see that at least the 3 major benchmarks here are up. The FTSE up about 1/3%. The CAC and the DAX both up about 0.4%. Look at the Brent crude trade over the past 2 weeks here in London. Up about 1% today after Saudi Arabia's King Fahd died. It actually pushed through the $60 mark here, and more than 5% over the past 2 weeks. And that's driving up, obviously, the big oil producers in Europe. BP is obviously the biggest. Royal Dutch Shell now trading as 1 share here in London, though also still in the Netherlands, 1.6%, the biggest gainer there. Total and Eni up as well. We had some more positive earnings news from the oil producers today, the most positive, in fact, so far, at least of those big four. Statoil, Norway's largest oil and gas producer, said second quarter profit climbed 55% as it pumped more fuel and obviously also benefited from surging oil and gas prices. Net income rose to more than $1 billion, $1.04 billion in the quarter. That is in line with expectations. Obviously, Statoil and the other companies that have reported so far, including BP and Shell, have benefited from the 39% surge in oil prices over the last quarter. Chief Executive Helge Lund, by the way, said this has been another strong quarter for Statoil with our best ever results from operations. Take a look at the banks. They also had, at least some of them had good numbers today. A big boost to the index with a few exceptions. HSBC is the biggest bank in Europe by market cap. It is up after its first half earnings, beat analyst expectations. ABN, though, down. The biggest Dutch bank dropped after it said it expects second half profit to fall for the first time since 2001. Barclays and Credit Suisse there, though, helping to boost the Stoxx 50. German media company Axel Springer may be about to challenge Bertelsmann's dominance of the country's $23.7 billion advertising market. The Berlin-based publisher is in talks to take control of ProSiebenSat.1, Germany's largest private broadcaster. According to people familiar with that situation, Springer would be able to bundle ProSiebenSat.1's programming, such as Desperate Housewives, with its Bild tabloid, incidentally the most sold newspaper in Europe, and magazines to win more ad revenue. Mike, back to you in New York.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much. See you a little bit later on. I want to take a look and see how the rest of the markets throughout the world are shaping up on this Monday morning. First of all, the futures right now pointing to a stronger open. S&P futures up 1/3%. We also have the NASDAQ futures up right now a little more, almost 0.4%, in fact, and the Dow futures up as well, a little more than 0.1%. Over to the Asian markets right now, see how they did in their Monday session. Everybody up. Nikkei up 0.4%. Hang Seng was up 2/3%, and the Kospi index was up a little more than 0.4%. Move on now to the dollar setup for you. The dollar falling against the euro for a third day and dropping versus the yen in Europe after the International Monetary Fund said the U.S. currency is overvalued. Currently $1.22.2 per euro, $1.7665 British pound, and 111.85 yen per dollar. U.S. Treasuries may fall in Asia after San Francisco Fed Reserve President Janet Yellen said the central bank should keep raising interest rates. Yellen said a 3.5% rate is the absolute lower end of a range where monetary policy neither stimulates growth nor fans inflation. And there you can see our two-year note and its yield right now. Investors will get some key economic data over this week. The big number coming our way on Friday. That's when we get the monthly jobs report. Employers probably added 180,000 workers last month, would be up from 146,000 in June. Today we are going to get the report on manufacturing. The Institute for Supply Management releasing its factory index, likely going to show growth in manufacturing accelerating last month. Orders are picking up as inventories have declined. That report due out 10 o'clock this morning, Eastern U.S. Daylight Savings Time, which is about 5 hours from now. Also at 10, we find out if construction spending is growing. Economists we surveyed are predicting a 0.7% increase in June. Would be, let's say, the end of 3 straight months of decline if that turns out to be the case. Other reports this week include personal income and spending and auto sales. All those numbers coming our way and coming your way as well tomorrow. General Motors ends its employees discount for all promotion today, and the company is now set to begin a new era of pricing. GM will cut prices on 30 of its 2006 models. This is according to people familiar with the company. The plan is designed to help GM regain lost market share and end its reliance on rebates. In all, GM is said to be offering a total of 50 models with some combination of reduced prices or added features at no extra cost. No extra cost right now as we take our first break on this Monday morning. Businesses may not be happy with the new head of the SEC. We'll tell you about that. And Merck is facing a class action suit in its home state. Back for you in 2.
What can an oil company do to gain your trust?
I want them to focus on making our environment cleaner, keeping to the EPA standards, being better than the EPA standards, so that we can all breathe freely and have fresh air. That should be a right.
I'll take the red one, please.
Dad!
Treat yourself to the best values of the year at the Lexus Golden Opportunity Sales Event.
There are always new races to be run, new challenges to be met. But success still comes from having a plan and the courage to follow it. And it's easier to reach your goals when you have talented people on your side. These principles are the keys to investment performance, today and tomorrow. Oppenheimer Funds, the right way to invest.
Carefully consider fund investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses. Call your advisor for a prospectus with this and other fund information. Read it carefully before investing.
With Sprint, people are experiencing BMW in a whole new way. Using wireless kiosks powered by Sprint, customers can build their own all-new 3 Series and ask for a test drive. Because the more new people BMW reaches, the more BMWs wind up on the road. With Sprint, BMW is accessible, interactive, beautiful. Learn more at sprint.com.
Okay, Trevor, let me explain the matrix one more time. The blue yarn applies to transportation expenses. The green is office supplies, and the red is inventory.
So, how do you add up each category?
Trevor, the matrix is not perfect.
There's an easier way to track your expenses. Get the Visa Business Card. Use it for all your business needs and get one detailed statement every month.
We should never speak of this.
Visa Business. It's everywhere you want your business to be.
Back right now, 14 past the hour. Time now for world and national headlines. Engineers are debating if 2 strips of cloth protruding from the space shuttle could pose a threat when it re-enters the atmosphere. Nicole Pedalitti's here now with that story and the rest of the news on this Monday morning. Good morning, Nicole.
Hi, good morning, Mike. Well, the cloth pieces fill a gap between the tiles at the bottom of the orbiter, according to the New York Times, citing a NASA flight director. Because of temperature changes, NASA leaves gaps between some tiles, but if the protrusions are deemed threatening, then some crew members may have to spacewalk and pull the cloth out or push it back in. In Kuwait, there is a continuing threat of a possible terror attack. The U.S. Embassy is warning citizens in the country of attacks involving bombings, hijackings, and kidnapping over the weekend. Security concerns are rising among governments in the Middle East considered pro-United States after the July bombings in London and Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt. In Beijing, the U.S. and North Korea are working on an agreement aimed at dismantling North Korea's nuclear weapons program. Six-nation talks are in their 7th day. China will present the draft for 5 other nations, according to the United States delegates to the meeting. In return for dismantling, North Korea will receive food, economic aid, and security guarantees. And India's commercial hub of Mumbai was disrupted for a 7th day as monsoon rains continued to hit the nation's west coast. The death toll in the Indian state of Maharashtra rose to 924. On July 26, Mumbai's suburbs were hit by 37 inches of rainfall. The government has urged people to stay in their homes and asked airlines to run limited services to the city following the fresh downpours. Mike, that's the latest news. Back to you.
All right, Nicole, thank you very much. Now 16 past the hour. The new chairman of the Securities and Exchange Commission is pledging to be a strong regulator. The assurance from Christopher Cox during last week's confirmation hearings won over skeptical Democrats, and therefore he was confirmed unanimously by the Senate late on Friday. The Californian spent 16 years as a member of Congress, and he has a pro-business record there. But Cox eased concerns of some senators they might undo some of the regulations that his predecessor put into place. Moving on right now, Asian stocks are starting the week out with gains. Mike Fern is in for Gino Tani and filed this report for us from Tokyo.
Better than expected earnings from companies including mobile phone operator KDDI and finance company Orix helped Japanese stocks rise. The Nikkei 225 closed 0.4% higher. KDDI rose 6.3%. Merrill Lynch raised its rating to buy from neutral after KDDI reported a 1.8% rise in first quarter profit. Orix gained 3.25% after reporting a 60% surge in earnings. Mizuho Financial Group shares ended the day 0.4% higher. Japan's biggest bank by assets said profit rose 15% in the first quarter and revenue rose 8%. Mizuho raised investment banking fees and cut costs. The bank raised its half-year profit forecast by 23%. Olympus reported a 62% drop in first quarter earnings after the Tokyo market closed. The world's 4th largest seller of digital cameras plans to cut 4,000 jobs this year to reduce costs. And signs that more than 7 years of deflation may be coming to an end in Japan. Wages had their biggest rise in 7 months in June. The average monthly wage gained 1.1% to the equivalent of $4,156. A separate report showed land prices in Tokyo rose 0.4% last year. That's the first rise in 13 years. South Korean consumer prices rose at the fastest pace in 4 months in July. They gained 0.4% from June. Another report showed exports rose 11.4% from a year earlier. Economists say the data may persuade the central bank to raise rates from a record low 3.25% in the first quarter of next year. Mike Fern, Bloomberg News, Tokyo.
Moving on right now, a New Jersey judge has certified a lawsuit over Vioxx as a class action suit. This creates the biggest single suit against Merck so far over withdrawn painkiller. It was brought by a union local on behalf of all third-party health benefit providers. They include health maintenance organizations, employers, and unions. The judge also ruled that New Jersey courts have jurisdiction because Merck is located in New Jersey. Merck recalled Vioxx last year after research showed an increased risk of strokes and heart disease. Time for us to take a break, but still ahead, we're going to run down some of the other companies reporting today, and Walmart providing its weekly sales update. Our journey back to the stocks desk when we return.
Think about the mountains you want to climb in the BMW X5, the corners you want to take, the hairpin turns you plan to find. Because it would be very un-BMW-like to have you thinking about brake pads, rotors, and oil changes. The BMW X5, the only SAV in its class with a standard full maintenance program. Lease at BMW X5 3.0 for $420.
It's been called the greatest doo-wop show of all time. A night full of unforgettable oldies. Presenting the Doo-Wop Gold Video Collection. From the Cadillacs to the Duke of Earl. Get Doo-Wop Gold on VHS or DVD for just $19.99. But if you call now with your credit card, we'll cut the price in half. You get 21 performances for just $9.99. Then preview other great doo-wop videos. Satisfaction guaranteed.
Call 1-800-318-0808 to order Doo-Wop Gold for just $9.99 plus shipping when you use your credit card. Call now.
Back once again with your biggest mover on this Monday morning, silver futures rising as much as 1.8% in Tokyo. Biggest gain for any commodity today. The buying followed a drop by the dollar against the euro. That had investors moving into the precious metal as an alternative investment. Bloomberg Morning Markets back in a couple of minutes. Don't go away.
For active traders, it all happens here, online. That's why we made Scottrade Elite fast, easy to navigate, and easy to customize, so everything's right where you want it. Streaming data, level 2 quotes, advanced technicals. You can test your strategies with virtual trading, manage multiple accounts from a single screen, and trade unlimited shares for just $7 flat, market or limit. Sometimes it pays to think inside the box. Demo Scottrade Elite today at ScottradeElite.com.
We're self-made too. One small business at a time is how we've grown. That's why we're incredibly proud of the fact that more small businesses in America bank with us than any other bank. In fact, 1 in 4 small businesses in California have chosen Bank of America. 1 in 5 in the Northwest, 1 in 5 in the Southwest, and 1 in 5 in the Northeast. More small businesses in more places bank with us than any other bank, over 2 million. To us, that's thrilling. Do you know what it means to be able to say that to a small business owner who wants to know that we understand their business? I'm Lori Chevy. I'm a banker, and I'm proud to be part of Bank of America. We know every single small business is unique, so we build the teams, customize the solutions, and offer the most sophisticated tools, advice, and service there is. Small business owners put it on the line every day, and every day we're proud to be in their corner.
Bank of America. Higher standards.
Start a new journey. Chart a new course. Go a new way. Discover the new Infinities at the Infinity Limited Engagement Summer Event. See your Infinity dealer for attractive lease and finance rates. But don't wait too long, because like summer, Infinity's limited engagement won't last forever.
All right, let's talk about Humana right now. Some have called it red hot. Perhaps it's going to get a little hotter as the HMO raises its forecast. Matt Nesto here right now to illuminate us on the subject. Matt.
I will quantify red hot for you, Mike. It's up 34% this year. It's up 123% in 12 months. I think in most circles we'll let that go through as a red hot stock. No question about it. HUM is the ticker. The stock out with their second quarter earnings and a forecast for the next 2 years. It's ahead of estimates. Second quarter, 51 cents a share on $3.5 billion in revenue. Both of those numbers in line. No real magic there. For the full year of 05, they see 223 to 225 per share. That's above a $2.12 average. And next year, they see another 25% growth on top of that to $2.80, and that would be above a $2.50 average. It's a $6.5 billion company, HMO, if you will. Other earnings on the radar screen today, you're going to see Teva Pharmaceutical out. Always an interesting story with their legal issues right now. Entergy is going to be reporting, and Tyson Foods, TSN is the ticker. Lincoln National in our financial group here today. See what they have to say as well. And then also, we have a stock up 2% in the after hours, and this is Northwest Airlines. The company threatening to file Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection this week if it can't get those labor costs under control. But ahead of that, the SAC Capital, Stephen Cohen's hedge fund based in Stamford, Connecticut, with $6 billion in assets, they said, we're going to step in and buy 5 million shares of Northwest Airlines. That's almost a 6% stake. The stock's down 57%. Some might say that's a bargain play, a value play, call it what you will. It's a big bet on a struggling airline. Mike, back to you.
Okay, Matt, thanks very much. A company founded by the late diet doctor Robert Atkins is filed for bankruptcy protections. Atkins Nutritionals blaming stiff competition now from mainstream food companies such as Unilever, Kraft, and General Mills, says they broke into the low-carb food market last year with well-funded aggressive product launches, and as a result, Atkins says its own sales were dramatically lower than forecast. Company says it has reached an agreement now with its banks on the outlines of a plan to restructure and to repay its creditors. That does it for this half hour. Back in a couple of moments with more. We've got another busy half hour headed your way. Procter & Gamble kicking off another busy week of earnings. Oil inching back towards record territory. So we have details on that and a whole lot more when we're back for you in 2.
Even at 110 degrees, Delphi's thermal systems help keep this Maserati cool in the cockpit and under the hood. And now, that same technology is being served up in a completely different high-tech environment.
Hey guys, big news for men with ED. The Cialis Promise program. Here's the deal. Try Cialis for the first time free. They're so confident you'll like Cialis. If you don't, they'll pay for a sample of the ED tablet of your choice. That's the Cialis Promise. Get details at Cialis.com. See how having up to 36 hours lets you choose when the moment is right. Cialis is only for men healthy enough for sexual activity. Do not take Cialis if you take nitrates for chest pain, as this may cause an unsafe drop in blood pressure. Don't drink alcohol in excess with Cialis. Side effects may include headache, upset stomach, delayed backache, or muscle ache. As with any ED tablet, men who experience an erection for more than 4 hours should seek immediate medical attention to avoid long-term injury. Discuss your health status and medications, including alpha blockers, with your doctor, and ask if Cialis is right for you. Discover the Cialis Promise program. Are you ready?
You see an ancient source of power. At Franklin Templeton, we saw a chance to invest in what became the international leader in wind technology, generating powerful returns for our fund shareholders. This kind of perspective has made us a leader in global investing. Franklin Templeton Investments. Gain from our perspective. Consider investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses carefully. For this and other information, get a prospectus from your advisor. Read it carefully before investing.
Delphi's stability control systems help vehicles maneuver through sudden turns and punishing conditions. And now that same technology is helping us steer in another rewarding direction.
That's cool.
Oil rising to the highest level in 3 weeks following the death of Saudi Arabia's King Fahd. He ruled the world's largest oil exporter for 23 years. Bank earnings leading European headlines. HSBC says results were boosted by an increase in lending. ABN AMRO says second-half profits will fall for the first time in 4 years. Procter & Gamble leading off this week's U.S. earnings. Later in the week, we hear from the entertainment companies, Time Warner and Viacom. And ahead of this week's jobs report, we will see if growth in manufacturing continued for a second straight month. Morning once again from Bloomberg's global headquarters here in New York City. I'm Mike Schneider. This is Bloomberg Morning Markets. Good of you to join us on this Monday morning. My partner Carol Masser is off today. U.S. equity index futures are pointing to a slightly higher open. The stocks did fall on Friday to end the month, but the S&P 500 is now staged its biggest rally in the second quarter. Earnings results based on that, so we'll talk about that momentarily. For the month, we should point out the S&P 500 did add 3.6%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average did increase 3.6% as well, and the Nasdaq surged 6.2%. European stocks on this Monday being led higher right now by the oil producers. Asian stocks finished up their Monday session higher for a fourth consecutive day. So we'll have more in detail on the markets for you momentarily, but first we do want to talk about oil because oil futures are starting off this week higher. Prices jumped after the death of Saudi Arabia's King Fahd was reported. I want to get a check on the price of oil right now. You can see we're up 44 cents currently, $61.01 a barrel. King Fahd, the ruler of Saudi Arabia for 23 years. Interesting, though, because he was not in charge of day-to-day operations since back in 1995 when he suffered a stroke. It was his half-brother, the Crown Prince Abdullah, who took over the role, and he now takes over the throne as well. A couple of other factors to consider in the oil story this morning. One, more trouble at a couple of refineries. BP shutting down its plant in Texas City, Texas for maintenance yesterday. And Valero Energy says that breakdowns at 3 of its refineries slowed output last week as well. There is also concern that Iran may resume its nuclear operations, and that could lead to sanctions against OPEC's second